Welcome back to another episode of the RAG Report podcast, my daily bulletin show where I bring to you recruitment owners, advisors, suppliers, investors to the global recruitment industry who are prepared to give up their time to help us all navigate through COVID-19 together. Today, I'm excited to be joined by a guest I've had on the RAG podcast before. Today, I've got Jon Coxon, the founder or co-founder of Rise Recruitment Ventures. These guys are one of the newest and hottest recruitment investors who are working with startups and early stage organizations, really the top 10% of recruitment organizations that want to scale and grow world-class recruitment agencies. Jon and his co-founder Alex are not only investing their cash, but their time, their expertise to really build those infrastructures for their clients. I've had them on the RAG, I think episode 1 of season 2, and it went down really, really well. So, Jon, welcome on the show.
Thank you very much, Sean. Happy to be here.
Yeah, it's a bit different than the last time in the studio, in the office, but times are what they are.
Yeah, it feels like a lifetime ago now, doesn't it? Yeah,
it really does. I was saying before, like, what was life like before this? Like, imagine going to a bar now or a coffee shop. It's a bit weird, actually. It's like, oh, that'd be good, but I don't really know what it'd feel like.
It's really interesting, actually, how sort of we're very adaptable, aren't we, as a species, and how kind of you really adapt to that new normal and how everyone has done so quickly. So yeah, that's really interesting.
Well, look, true RAG Report style, I wanted to ask you the first question, which is paint the picture for my listeners. What the hell is your life like right now?
Yeah, so I'm, as you know, I'm in Barcelona.
Yep.
So Barcelona shut down. Spain shut down pretty aggressively compared to the UK in a couple of weeks beforehand. So yeah, I'm in my bubble, as everyone is. You know, we were in a small kind of 80 square meter apartment in the centre of Barcelona. We've got a little balcony, but it's kind of like ironing board size,
wow.
You know. So that's but better than nothing. So yeah, so it's we've been on lockdown for 8 weeks, and we can only go out for shopping or emergencies or to the pharmacy. And actually, I've been even stopped by the police a few times going out. Just and if you haven't got big bags of shopping, they'll stop you because you're not meant to be nipping out for a bottle of milk. So they've been really intense and really quite aggressive here. So we'll see how that measures up.
Any signs of it relaxing a bit, like they're talking about in the UK, or?
Yeah. So tomorrow we're going to be allowed out for a short walk every day, I think. So
how are you feeling?
And together as well. So I can't go out with my fiance. So if I'm going to the shop, I have to go on my own, or she has to go on her own. So actually tomorrow will be the first time that we'll be outside together in 8 weeks. So yeah,
it's just, just stop there and think about what you've just said, really. Like, if you'd have said this 12 weeks ago, you'd have pissed yourself, wouldn't you? You'd be like, what are you talking about? It's nonsense. But it literally is, for you more than me. I mean, we've got another client who's based in I think he's in the Costa del Sol, and he's locked down. He's luckily got a nice villa, but it's still the same. You guys have had it even worse than us. It's like to not be able to leave the house together. I mean, I go for a walk with my wife most days, and that's probably the one thing I look forward to outside of work the most. So I do feel for you, mate. But look, I've spoke to you a lot. You've remained positive. You remained healthy as well. What have you been doing in that living room of yours? You've been all sorts.
Yeah, the living room slash gym slash yoga studio. Yeah, it's just I think last time I spoke to you was just after I killed myself with a.
Yeah, you sounded like you're dying.
A hit session, yeah. So yeah, we've been keeping busy. I mean, it's been all right. I think the first 5 weeks were all right. Then I was a little bit under the weather for a couple of weeks in it, so that dragged. You have your days where you get a bit fed up, don't you? And I think everyone does through this, but I think they're an opportunity as well. They're an opportunity to learn about yourself, aren't they? So I think it's been all right. It's been all right.
Someone said the other day, like, if the worst thing I have to do is stay at home when other people are on the front line and all that, it can't be that bad. And I think that's a really good way to look at it. Like, it's shit, and if it was the rest of our lives, I'm not sure many people would be very happy. But even if it's a few more weeks, I think we've got to be able to take it as a group of people.
I watched Brawl in Cell Block 99 the other day, which was I don't know if you've seen it. It's pretty boring sort of prison prison kind of film. And so I was just that was actually in a way quite helpful, just seeing some of the cells on that film. And I think it's not too bad. No. But yeah, it's tough, and it's tough for everyone, isn't it? And it's the sort of unknown elements of this situation which are difficult for people. So I'm steering clear. I give myself 10 minutes to look at the news every day. I've deleted Facebook off my phone. I think it's you got to. It's about where you put your attention, isn't it? You create where you put your attention, and so yeah.
You can be a victim. You can become a victim to it. You can let it all just dominate your brain, or you can choose what you listen to. Jon, I think that's your computer there going crazy. I don't know if you can turn your notifications off. Everyone's listening. Get them off.
Let me get rid of that.
I'm not even going to edit this out because I actually, this happened the other day on an episode, and I tried to edit it out and I forgot, and it went off, and then I released it, and at 7 a.m. one of the listeners was like, Sean, I don't think you edited that bit out. I was like, oh shit! So I had to take it down and put it up. So you know what? People can learn. This is what the Raw podcast is all about. It's real life. But for the listeners, Jon, some will have listened to your episode on the RAG and others won't. So I don't want to go into the whole story, but look, a couple of headlines. Obviously, you started Liquid in 2006, right? And then sold in 2016. So it's a 10-year project that you and Alex Elliot founded together. And social care recruitment got to over 100 staff, over 100 million turnover, sold for over 20 million after 10 years. It was a remarkable story that if anyone wants to really get under the bonnet, we went through warts and all like 6-7 months ago. So what's been happening ever since? So once, I think it was October, November time, we sat down. Tell me through before COVID, what was the last 6 months like for you?
Yeah, good. I mean, it's been early days with our new venture. So we've been building. So we launched Rise, the investment business, Rise Recruitment Ventures. We officially launched the business in March this year, which interesting time to launch an investment business. But prior to that, look, we'd made one investment in an exceptional business in Manchester, an early stage recruitment business called Strive Sales.
Yeah.
So we've been working really closely with the directors of that business, really supporting them in putting the foundations in place for some serious growth. So we supported them with some building out their approach to hiring, really leveling up in terms of the individuals that are taking on, going from sort of 7s and 8s to 9s and 10s, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Putting in place those processes, supporting them, developing their proposition, building out systems, training. So really kind of like a lot of recruitment and business, it's about mastering the fundamentals, isn't it? So really sort of working with them on those key fundamental elements to help them position for some real growth. And just before kind of COVID came along, they'd had a couple of fantastic months, which, is a shame in a way, but ultimately the money they generated in those months, they really leveled up, and that's gonna support the business through this period. So we've been working with those guys really closely and really building out the resources at Rise. And
so again, Rise, the thing I loved so much when you first told me about the idea was that there's a lot of other. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the other models, but there's more traditional like recruitment backing model is where they take away your back office, let you do what you're good at, which is just bill, right? And I get why that works. Yours is slightly different. So can you just give us another overview as to what the model looks like from if you're working with someone, what do they actually receive?
Yeah, so we invest in startup and early stage recruitment businesses. So businesses that have founders who have the capacity to grow at pace with our support. So and it's really broad, our support. Look, Alex and I, our experience is recent. We sold that business in 2016, and lots of things have changed, like lots of technological advancements, but we've still got our fingers on the pulse, I would say, in terms of recruitment. So we're supporting businesses through those various kind of stages of growth, getting those foundations in place, the structure, the strategy, the systems, the technology, the the proposition to take to the market, supporting the leaders in those businesses, upskilling them. If it's a startup, we invest in people, in billing managers who have got a track record of building exceptional teams. So supporting people from that step up from billing manager into business owner, it's a big jump, and there's lots of other kind of stuff to learn as you and I know. So it's smoothing that transition and dealing with any barriers to growth, and supporting people through those different stages of growth, making the most of every opportunity, and bringing a bit of cash to the table as well to really supercharge that.
So that's what I think. That's the beauty of it. You physically are getting involved, hands are like rolling up the sleeves and putting in procedures, processes, helping them hire the right people. Like, you think about it, like early stage businesses, if you said to them, like, tell me what your strategy around finance will be, they're going to be like, well, I've got an idea of how I'm going to payroll my contractors through an outsourcing company, but then how much are you going to pay yourself? How are you going to structure it? Your dividends? There's so many things in the back office that you have to learn. And most of us, like myself, you learn it from making mistakes. And I look back at the first 3 years of Hoxo and I'll go, well, if I'd have known some of the things that I know now, like, fuck me, we'd have been double the size by now. But you're giving people that opportunity really by saying, we can shortcut your mistakes effectively and give you the leverage. So when you've been working with those guys, what are you looking for from them? Obviously the billing management bit I get, because then it means you can scale fast with them. But what about the individuals you're looking at? What do you want to see?
Yeah, so I think it's kind of billing manager and above as a starting point. So people with a proven track record of building high performance sales teams. We want to work with people who've got some serious ambition. If you want to, everyone's aims are different, and if you want to build a kind of lifestyle business with a few consultants, there's nothing wrong with that, and that's a personal choice. But there's not really, you're not going to get the value from people like Alex and myself in that kind of scenario. So we want to work with people who want to build market-leading recruitment businesses. Typically, that means building towards a high-value exit within a 10-year kind of time frame. So seriously ambitious people with the potential to grow and develop with their business. But people also who we want to feel like we can add value, so we need to be able to add value. It's not just about financial injection. And actually, the biggest value we add isn't the financial injection, and maybe people think that it might be that at first, but it's actually the support and the experience that we bring to the table. But and look, we need to be aligned as well in terms of sort of values and approach. That's really important. The market needs to be interesting as well. It needs to be a high value, fairly stable market. And obviously there's less of those around at the moment, but look, we're building for the future, and we're still it's really interesting timing actually, because it's a new world, and we're sort of figuring things out as we go along. And we're wondering if we'd be getting less people coming to us in this time. But actually, I think because people have got lots of time at home to think and consider their kind of future, we're getting lots and lots of inquiries at the moment. And we might not be starting like investing in 3 or 4 recruitment businesses in the next couple of months, but it's about identifying exceptional individuals and positioning for the future, preparing for that uplifting growth when it comes.
So, I've got so many questions running through my head. What I want to kind of do in this episode is trying to think if I'm the person that is talking to you, because I kind of, my whole point of the RAG was designed to help people that were either at the very beginning or even before they've launched. Because if you look back, obviously I launched Hoxo 2017, but from 2014 to 2017, it was a recruitment company in my head, right? Me and my business partner now, we were like, Hoxo was a recruitment company. Hoxo was the final name. There was so many shit names before, but we don't go into that anymore. Told too many times that story. But the biggest thing I found was there was a considerable lack of information out there. Like if you didn't, Sonovate, I think we're popping about. I had a few mates who worked with them. James Kahn was out there with his content and bits and bobs. Not an awful lot though, but I couldn't ask my boss because he knew I was leaving. So I was really struggling, and there was so many questions going through my head. So the rag was always designed to really give people that leg up to say, you know what, I've listened to all these episodes, I'm going to do it. And I think, and actually, if you listen to episodes and reach out to some of these people, they'll probably help you anyway. But you're offering a different level of help. Like, that is your actual job to help, as opposed to saying, yeah, I'll give you a bit of time on the side. You're saying this is my full focus, which I think that's extra special. So first question I'd have would be like, what do you want? What do you want to know from me at the beginning of the process? So if I'm reaching out to you, what do I need to provide you in terms of information? I've got, let's say I'm not even started. I've got 6 months in my head of when I'm going to start. What do you want to know?
So I think there's two kind of key areas, right? It's the people and the market. So from a market perspective, we need to really sort of delve into the competitors and understand how we can create a proposition that ideally truly differentiates the proposition from other competitors. We want to be in kind of those kind of inch wide, mile deep kind of markets where we can really specialize and create a name for ourselves, providing high value candidates to businesses and markets with stable macroeconomic factors. So I think that's really important.
So if I can say to you, right, I've got this track record. Me and my mate have done these kind of billings in this market. Let's say me and Amma used to do business transformation. I was insurance, he was retail. We had about 2.1 million between us in terms of revenue across our teams, all contract. Like, we would have been the type of people you'd want to speak to, right?
So, absolutely. And I think that's really key. I think it's people with a proven track record of billing, but over and above that, actually, it's people with a proven track record of building high performance sales teams. And what I mean by that is hiring, training, retaining.
So would you be probing me now about how I've done what I've done? You'd want to know not just the higher levels. You'd want to really know how I hire, who I've hired, what mistakes I've made, that kind of stuff. So it'd be almost like you'd be interviewing me now at this point, right?
Yeah, look, we've got a detailed process. We're investing in 3 to 4 businesses every year. So we're not, and the level of support and investment and time that we give to people is really high. So we're incredibly particular about who we invest in. So I think, for example, lots of billing managers might need some extra support around hiring. So sometimes people just get delivered, if you think about lots of recruitment businesses out there, when the billing managers get involved in the recruitment process, it's often towards the end after they're fed candidates. So actually they're involved in that process, but maybe they're not involved from the start. And so that kind of attraction piece and that real kind of assessment piece might not be there. So I think ideally it's people who have had that experience through that entire process, just as one example. But look, there's going to be, everyone's going to have strengths and areas of development, and it's really, we are flexible, and we want to focus in on supporting people, maximizing their kind of super strengths and helping them fill in the gaps. But yeah, look, broadly speaking, it's people who have got that proven track record. If people can build high performance teams, and they've proven that they can do that, then we can help them take that to the next level and build that repeatable, scalable process for success.
Interestingly as well, I'm thinking, right, let's say, again, I always look back at my own experience. I got to 2015 in the end and I bought a house. So I put 110 grand into a flat in London, and that was kind of all my money gone. So that was my milestone that said, right, Sean, you've got to you got to save for the business now. So I had another year to save for the business, which I did, and I left and blah. But let's just say COVID hit me in March 2016, I'd have had like fucking, I don't know, 5 grand or something. I'd have had asset, but I'd have had no capital. So I would have been struggling. So what do people need to bring to the table in terms of finances for you to be interested? Because I think right now that might be a problem, that someone had a contract book expecting to get paid for the next 4 months and they're on furlough or they're on a basic salary with no bonus. That could influence that.
Do you mean in terms of what they're delivering within the business, or in terms
No, it's in like money,
like
what actual available capital do you expect them to have, as opposed to you say, well, look, we'll fund the whole thing if you've got the right track record. Well, how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a prerequisite for us that people have some skin in the game. So I think that's really important. And yeah, look, the reality is that it might be a little bit more difficult for some people at the moment. That's an unfortunate fact. But I think if people believe in themselves and believe in what they can achieve in that market, then they can beg, borrow, or steal. Maybe not steal, but they can beg or borrow. And at least get something together. So I think it's important from two perspectives for us. It's a kind of a bit of a commitment test and a test to see how confident they are of actually delivering, but also, it keeps people sort of focused, doesn't it? And if people have got that skin in the game, then they have to kind of make it happen. And I think that's probably the same for most investors. And look, it doesn't have to be crazy money, but it has to be a substantial amount for them. I think that's the important thing. But ultimately, look, I mean, we invest up to 200,000 per startup, so we're going to be bringing most of the cash to the table, but they're going to need something.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, so how long would you expect a process to go for? So let's say again, I come to you, I've just left, I'm available now. How long would you expect a process to take before you would give me a decision that you're happy to invest in Sean Anderson's new business? I'm not actually leaving, by the way, and doing this, but
yeah,
I'm getting a little bit excited by it. But no, calm yourself, Sean.
So I think it really, the answer is it depends. And if people are, pre-COVID, we were speaking to some people who were ready. They were ready to move, you can work through that process in 3 weeks with people in some cases. But we might be speaking to some people earlier on in the process, and they're sort of, they're thinking about it, and we catch up again 3 months later and they're ready to kind of pull the trigger. So it just depends. But I think it's detailed, but it doesn't have to be stretched out more than kind of 3 weeks, right, as a assessment period. But look, I think it's really important when you get into bed with a business partner, whether that's an investor or a partner, it's a long-term relationship, and the strength of that relationship is one of the key fundamental factors as to where you're going to be in 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years, 2 years with the business, however long, So it's important to make sure that you're aligned in terms of what you want to achieve, values, what each party is going to be bringing to the table, that you're going to get on and be able to work together. So it's worth taking a little bit of time through that process, and it's worth that for both parties, actually. Yeah.
Well, I can talk firsthand. I'm not going to go into mad detail today. I'm releasing an episode of the story of Hoxo in the next week or two as well, so people can find out a bit more about what's going on in the behind it. But I started with 3 business partners, and one was my best mate from school, and he's no longer with us. Right. So we're still mates. If anything, we're better mates than the final 6 months of working together. But that was one where due diligence probably wasn't done very well. We got excited. But we'd never worked together. We'd not really seen each other since we were 18 properly. And there's loads of reasons why it wasn't great. Like, it just didn't work very well. Whereas me and Amma had been best mates, lived together, but also had worked together for like 4 years. So we just knew each other inside out. And we'd also come from the same pace of work. And for him, we found that his pace being in Manchester and ours being in London was a difference. Just us in recruitment, him in marketing. There was so many differences. And I think aligning and understanding that at the beginning is something I would employ anyone to do now. Is like, it can look great in certain areas, but actually the day-to-day of how you guys think needs to have some alignment. I'm listening to Richard Branson's book at the minute. Have you ever been through it?
Well, I've read one of his books. Which one are you?
Let me just get my Audible open. One sec. It's Losing My Virginity by Richard Branson. So it's like the early stages of his life, I think. I've got an hour and 45 minutes of the audio left. And honestly, I've loved every second of it. Like, it's been amazing. But he's gone through various business relationships and all. Like, it's just, you hear some of the things he's done and you think, fucking hell, he's still going. So you get through it. But what would you say about times now then? Like, what's your opinion of what's going on? I mean, I've spoke to your partner, Alex, right at the beginning, but you're talking to recruiters, I'm talking to recruiters. What are you hearing, and how would you kind of summarize what you think's going on in the recruitment market right now?
Yeah, it's pretty grim, isn't it? There's no point kind of beating around the bush with it. I think hiring in the UK is around 30% or something of what it was pre-COVID. I think we've got a risk of there's a pretty high risk, in my opinion, of a fairly slow recovery as well. So there might be less competition out there, unfortunately for recruiters, but there's probably also going to be a bit less business as well for an extended period of time. Obviously some markets are more affected than others. So from an investor perspective, we, in our kind of pipeline of potential investments, we had 5 or 6 things where we were going to be reaching a decision, and that came, and they were quite far on in the process. And we're speaking to one business seriously now, an existing business, about a potential investment. So, we're all a little bit on pause, aren't we? And I think if I just think about who's going to win coming out of this situation, it's really about, first it's about survival, and then it's about positioning, being positioned and funded for growth when the market kind of turns, right? But it's very hard to plan, and obviously, and I think we're in a bit of a state of flux. And for me, it's about hoping for the best and planning for the worst, I guess. And if we think it's going to take 3 months for the market to start turning, then plan for 6 months at least.
I have seen quite a lot of hope in the last 2 weeks, though. I've seen interviews and jobs are going up, and not to the point where they're anywhere near where they were pre-COVID, but they're the highest they've been in, say, 6 weeks. There's obviously talks of relaxing lockdowns. So there's been more interest. I think there's been more confidence that as a not just recruitment, but as an economy, we're going to try and function as well as we can, as opposed to saying, look, let's just pause. We're going to, how do we bring everything back slowly in different and adjust? Like, for example, supermarkets being open with a protest, everything will have to have a new process, but that doesn't mean things can't happen. So hopefully that, I can't see a market being back to normal like it was for a long time, year and a half, something like that. But I can see it getting back to a very interesting place quite quick, personally. Only based on the conversations I'm having, and I'm hoping I'm right. What does that mean for you in terms of? I imagine there's a lot of businesses out there that they might be small, a couple of years in, and maybe don't have the biggest cash reserves, or have been bundling along a little bit, and now think, fucking hell, that's been a bit of a hit, and they might be reevaluating their strategy moving forward. Are you interested in talking to those, like I say, early stage businesses? It doesn't have to be a brand new. It can be someone who's already somewhat established.
100%. I think if those business, again, it comes back to that, that kind of almost like that proof of concept thing, so if someone can evidence that they built a successful sales and delivery teams, then we're keen to talk to them. And I think, as I say, thinking about who's going to win big out of this, it's people who are positioned and funded for growth. So if you can retain your people, and if you can, or as many of your people as possible, and if you've got at least some form of cash reserves or the opportunity for a cash injection to grow at the greatest pace that the market will allow, then you're going to come out of this better. And we're interested in talking to those kind of businesses. So businesses that perhaps have scaled back, but they've got that kind of secret sauce. It's there. It's just about making the most of it in that new kind of space. So we're absolutely keen to talk to businesses like that. Because
one thing, when I spoke to Alex about the COVID problem, I think it was like my second week of the RAG report, he made a really interesting point, which I found funny, but really stayed in my head, was like, he spoke to your old finance director and said, like, did we ever have 3 months' money in the bank, like, as a contingent? And they were like, no, don't think we did. Yeah. And I think that has been, the whole knee-jerk reaction thing that me and Alex talked at length about, where people they cut deep fast, and it got a lot of bad press. And look, we all know why people have got on the bandwagon for that being bad. But to me, like, if you're trying to grow, that comes with a risk, doesn't it? Like, any reward comes with an equal or greater risk. And the risk is that you're probably not going to be sat there with the revenues behind you, that you're this big stable ship. You're going to be pumping every penny back in to grow again. So how would you position a business coming out of this, knowing that they've this has happened and it could happen again, would you go at it with an organization as aggressively as you did with liquid social care, would you do that, or would you pull a bit more money back and make sure you have that 3 months in future?
That's a really interesting question, actually, and I think it's looking more broadly than that. If you look at kind of the drivers behind modern kind of capitalism, it's having big cash reserves in a business is almost been a bit of a taboo, right? It's almost, and you look at it from a kind of listed company perspective, and you'll have active investors who publicly beat up businesses who do that. So so yeah, it's interesting because I think there will be a shift broadly from squeezing every bit of growth out of every penny to actually having a little bit more of a buffer. I think that there absolutely will be a bit of a global shift there, which is going to be interesting globally, because we global growth had been a bit sluggish since 2008 anyway, right? So that's going to be interesting to see how that kind of plays out, and I do think that's going to be a broad trend. And yeah, I think that we'll probably see that shift in recruitment, and I think that shift is necessary. So it's something I think
in personal life. You probably see it in your personal life. Like, if you think about the amount of people that live by their paycheck and they just plod on every month, spend what they earn. Yeah. Again, you're going to go back to, fuck me, I'm going to put 10 to 15% away, like investors have told me all along, to make sure that if I have another recession or if I'm furloughed or I'm not living on baked beans or whatever. I think there's genuinely going to be, and I've had so many chats now, and I've heard the amount of recruitment owners that were leveraging the whole, get in your juniors, grow headcount. They're thinking, well, actually, maybe a strategy would be less like headcount focused, more productivity per head focused, more brand and automation focused. What do you think? Would you still say that junior, build your own team model is how you would push forward in the new world?
I think there's lots of ways to skin the cat, aren't there? And I think look, I think that can definitely still work in the new world. But I think, again, you can. If I think back to Liquid, our guys build big. So we hired those 9s and 10s. We were really, really picky in terms of the people we brought into the business. The Rec to Rex knew it. If people in Manchester heard that people were like a candidate was at final stage with our business, they were just offering them. So you kind of like, I think if you maintain that quality through the process, if you're hiring exceptional people, if you've got a really differentiated proposition, if you're supporting your team and training and developing them and retaining them, if you're doing those right things, then I don't think there's anything wrong with hiring rookies. And for me, actually, I like that model, because you build that tribe, right? You build that tribe, and people get really ingrained in your business culture. But I do think perhaps that businesses might be a little bit more focused on productivity. If you've got a bums on seat approach to recruitment, if you're hiring 10 people and hoping 1 or 2 work out, you might need to rethink, right? You might actually take a bit more focus on quality and productivity. If you're already doing that, you're probably well positioned for the new world.
What about the whole remote working piece? What's your opinion on that? Because you've been a digital nomad yourself, but your previous business was a physical business. I believe Strive are a physical business in Manchester. So what's your opinion on how businesses should adopt that way in the future?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about even setting COVID aside, if you think about the big kind of global trends, you mentioned the sort of digital nomad piece. That's a big global trend, right? That's been sort of picking up some serious pace. And I think the younger generation of recruiters and people coming into recruitment, they're looking for a different experience from work than perhaps I was when I got into a recruitment business. So I flexibility around kind of work was already a reasonably strong trend, although perhaps not as embedded in the recruitment market as some other areas. And COVID's going to accelerate that, isn't it? And I think for me, look, I think the challenge, and this is we could probably have an hour conversation about this one point, but the challenge for me around it is training and developing people. And if you've got a rookie in a room full of people, and they can hear the person on the left and the right of them, and they've got a manager coaching them on the phone and all that kind of stuff, and the atmosphere of a sales floor as well. Those things are really powerful. And you lose that if people are sat at home on their own billing. So what I would say, I guess, is I like the flexibility of remote working. I like that as an option in the business, and I think that's something that will come more into play. But I think it has to be done in the right way. And I think if you're hiring a load of rookies and they're sat at home and you've got an online training program and you think that's going to do the job, I'd be a little bit worried about that. I'd love to see if I'm proved wrong.
Same. I think most would agree with you there that the trainee model is where there's going to be some concerns. I've said on a few of these episodes, I kind of think there'll be a couple of camps that will evolve out of this. I think there'll be businesses that will go, do you know what? We are a face-to-face business. We've got the sales floor. We want to go back to that, and they'll attract new people, potentially some experienced people that want to stay in that world. And then there'll be others that say we're not going to go 5 days a week in the office. And you know what? They might have to sacrifice the size of their training academies. And you might have an office for the academy, and they kind of, once they graduate through a year's work, they then have the option to work more remotely. I don't know.
I think that's a sort of sensible middle ground. I think it's good if people have to earn it, and also, get leveled up to the point where they can actually deliver in that kind of way. But also, look, there's lots of people who want that office environment and that camaraderie and that kind of, who enjoy working in that and find it quite hard actually sat at home 5 days a week. So I think flexibility is the answer, and I don't think it's not a black or white thing. It's about that grey in the middle where it probably is actually the right.
I think for me, it's the 100% choice based, and it's having I think I can't imagine anyone coming out of this will. Well, I'm definitely wrong in that way. There will definitely be someone and some people, but majority I can imagine won't want to go 100% either way. Because we've been so 100% off outside. At home, isolated. That to me, staying at home 5 days a week is like a fucking prison sentence. After this, I want to go in to the office, but I like the thought of 2-3 days, and then I like if you told me I have to do 5 days in the office, that would almost feel a bit like I've had no choice. You're giving me no more choice. I want to know. Whereas if you said to me, right, 1 day a week we all work from home, or 2 days or whatever, I don't know. I feel like because the benefits people have learned, and like for example, waking up early, going for a run, having breakfast with your family, walking your dogs. There's loads of things we're going to get so ingrained over 2 to 3 months. Yeah. So take that away, that'll piss people off. So it's a fine balance, isn't it? I think as well, age, I've said on a few occasions that, in my early 20s, living with Amma and my mate James in Clapham with a rickety old kitchen table, would I really have wanted to work from home there? We'd have got distracted. It wasn't the environment for it. Whereas now I'm set up for it. Well, I've managed to be. Everyone's stage of life changes and differs as well.
Yeah, I definitely think there's no hard and fast rules with it, but 100% we're going to see more flexibility around this stuff. And it was happening anyway. But I mean, of course, it's going to be fast tracked. But there's definitely a balance. And that's both from an employer and employee perspective.
100%. How are you? How are you finding the relationship with you and Alex not seeing each other either for 8 weeks? Are you speaking every day or every couple of days? How do you two manage it?
When we developed the idea for Rise, I was living in South America and Alex was living in Rutland. So yeah, it's all right. It's kind of like, it's not much different, to be honest. But yeah, look, I mean, I'm very used to working kind of from wherever, and I can do it, and it works for me. And so I can be in my in my front room. I prefer to go to a coffee shop or something like that, but obviously that's not an option at the moment. But so yeah, I think it's all that stuff that's been talked about a lot, isn't it? Just around maintaining communication and having those regular touch points. But we work really well like this. Yeah,
you've got a really interesting balance, and look, that moves into what I wanted to say. So the announcement of today's episode, which I've not mentioned yet, is that I mentioned it last week on LinkedIn that I've got a couple of sponsors joining me on the RAG from now on, and you guys are the first I'm proud to announce as being the first sponsor of the RAG podcast. You guys, I mean, you called me up from Colombia one day. I remember it when you rang me up and was like, this dodgy number, I could hardly hear. And he's like, I'm an investor in a recruitment company. I was like, is he having me on? Like, is this some competitor? What is it? But obviously we've got on and we've worked together for a while now. And I started this podcast with a genuine mission to help recruitment owners from pre-start to scale and exit. I just want everyone to learn and feel passionate about what they're doing. And we all have ups and downs, but it's the stories from others are the bits that we latch onto. And when I heard about what you guys were doing, I just feel like it's so well aligned. So I want to say thanks for getting behind the show. Like, I'm really excited to have you guys.
Yeah, thank you. We love it. We love the show, and yeah, look, we are, as you say, we're very much aligned in terms of sort of our why, aren't we? Which I think is one of the reasons why it's such a good fit. Yeah,
it's a great fit. And so I'm going to be obviously mentioning you guys a lot. I want the RAG listeners to get to know Rise and to reach out and ask you guys any questions. The one thing about you two has been, yes, you're investors. Yes, you want to do deals, but you've been fucking generous with information. Like, I've been phoning you both up at times with myself, and you don't even run a marketing agency, but business leadership, you've always been there for me, and that's been massive. And I think I would implore the listeners to reach out. And even if it is just for a chat and a chin wag and just what do you think of this? I know you're the type of guys that will do that. So I hope people do reach out as a result of this and further episodes. We've got some cool things lined up as well. So we are going to host a live event together at some point soon. We're just working out how we're going to do it and what it's going to be. Maybe you can do a TikTok video while we're doing it and get your fiance involved. Jon's fiance is a musician, a singer?
She's a singer and composer. Yeah. Did you see the TikTok video that I sent you?
Literally, I just opened it by accident on my phone there. But I'll tag it in the post. But yeah, get that involved. But yeah, a couple of weeks time we'll have an event. We're wondering what people want. So guys, if you're listening and if you want us to, we're going to host an event where Jon and Alex and the team are going to be live with me. I want to get the topic right. There's so many things that these guys can help with, whether it is about purely funding, whether it's about process, whether it's about scale and exit. I don't really care. I want you guys to let me know. So I'm going to do some social posts in the next couple of weeks about what do you want to learn. Let's do a bit of a poll. If you direct message me on LinkedIn or drop me a note via email, sean@hoxonmedia.com, then, the more we get back from you guys, the more we'll shape into something that will be really useful. Jon, thanks so much, mate. I'm really excited to have you guys on board. One thing I wanted to say as well is when you're back in the UK when things are allowed to come back, how often are you in the country? Because I know a lot of our sector is very face-to-face driven, and after this probably might go even more so. Are you open to flying over and having those chats in person and getting to know the guys?
100%. I'm in the UK probably almost as much as I'm in Spain. So I'm living in Barcelona at the moment, but yeah, I'm always in the UK, and it might be that I when I can, I move back for a while at least, because we don't really know what the score is with kind of international travel at the moment. So yeah, look, I'm always around. I love chewing the fat, love talking business. So I'm very much sort of open in terms of having a conversation with anyone really. 100%.
Wicked.
I'm here to support people in the market.
Wicked. Well, look, thanks so much. Guys, thanks again for listening to another episode of the RAG Report. I hope you enjoyed this episode today with me and Jon. As always, we're going to be back every single day. This is not going to slow down. We reached a milestone of 13,000 downloads in April, which for me, I think February was 5,000, 5,500. So the through lockdown, the daily uploads has been massive. And I thank every one of you for listening. As you know, I don't ask for any money from you guys to listen to the show. I do ask for one thing, and that is for you to share it. So if you can share this stuff on LinkedIn, if you can pass it via WhatsApp, text, email to your colleagues and friends and bosses, because together, the more people listen to this show, the more we're going to get through this sector and we're going to grow. I'll be back again tomorrow with more information for you. But in the meantime, stay safe, and I'll see you soon.